Alright everyone, welcome back. Today, we finally have a new Boruto Two Blue Vortex chapter. Chapter 13 is finally released, and I am excited. This chapter has changed everything that we know about the Boruto and Naruto franchise. Everything. So I'm excited to go ahead and jump right into it. But of course, we gotta start off with the cover page. I think this might be my new favorite cover page so far for Two Blue Vortex. It was either between this one or the first one, but the purple accents on the title, the sword, the cape, it just looks clean. The drawing itself is really good. It's a dynamic pose. Ikamoto knocked it out of the park with this one. I really do like this cover. I honestly do think it is my favorite cover. But let's go ahead and get on into the actual chapter. Now, for anyone who hasn't seen one of these videos before, if you want to go ahead and read along with me, or see the panels along with me, you can go ahead and look down in the description below to see a link to the chapter on Viz Media. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So to start off, we pick up where we left off, where Jura had just sniped Boruto and Sarada, and Boruto is down on the ground, hurt. He's basically out of action right now. And Jura is charging up and getting ready to deliver the final blow to Boruto as he goes along and says, "Farewell, Otosuki Boruto." But right before he can get the shot off, the bug clone, or as we now know his name is, Mamushi, as we can see here, pops out of Jura's clothes, because if you haven't realized yet by now, on all the Shinju clones, their clothes that they're wearing are made out of the belts that Code teleports through. So not only can they use Code's teleport belts, they can just teleport to each other through their clothes. So Mamushi comes out of Jura's chest, the chest portion of his hoodie, and gives him news that Matsuri is back, and that based on her investigation, they have found out that Boruto has a partner who we know is Kashin Koji. Now knowing this, Jura knows where Boruto is getting his intel from and how he knows about things such as the Shinju themselves, the Thorn Soul Bulb that we saw last chapter, and other happenings that have been going on. And Mamushi asked Jura, "Hey, did Hidari get himself killed? Because where did you get that bulb from?" Jura basically tells him, yes, our foe is formidable. Otosuki Boruto is not to be messed around with. And he decides to go ahead and retreat because they don't want to let Hidari's bulb rot. Which is interesting, because it seems like if they're willing to retreat this quickly, is it possible that the soul bulbs end up rotting away, or kind of, I'm assuming they dissipate or kind of just fall apart rather quickly if they're willing to retreat that fast. But Jura basically says that Boruto is a lucky man, that the heavens themselves are intervening in order to keep him alive from Jura. And we cut back to Boruto, and then we go to a flashback. We get to see long hair Boruto once more. So this is obviously before he probably meets Koji. This seems to be right after the whole Code encounter that him and Sasuke had, where Sasuke was caught and turned into a tree. So we get to see what exactly is going on here. And as Boruto is hiding from these shinobis that are looking for him, a toad comes up from behind him and says, "I finally found you, Boruto." And Boruto's shocked. He's like, "Who is this toad?" And the toad proceeds to tell him, "There's 20 shinobi in the area, you're trapped, and yet you still decide not to kill anyone." So the toad is obviously interested in this information. Boruto continues to ask, "Who are you?" while he proceeds to draw his sword, or prepares to draw his sword, and the frog proceeds to explain that he's not a foe. "If I were, I would have already alerted the shinobi to your position, but I haven't yet, have I?" And then Boruto, just still being cautious, just tells the toad, "Tell me what your motivation is." And throughout this entire time, Boruto's keeping his hand near his sword, so if he has to, he is ready to slice at any moment. Boruto's not taking any chances here. The toad tells him, "Touch my back, and we'll get you out of here first." Boruto's a little hesitant to do this, which makes sense. I mean, you don't know where he doesn't know where the Toad's going to end up sending him. But Toad basically says, look, wherever you end up, it's probably better than here, right? Or are you scared of Toads? So he kind of goaded him into touching him. Boruto touches his back, and then we see Koji use summoning jutsu, or reverse summoning jutsu. It says summoning jutsu, but I feel like this would be the reverse. I don't know what would quantify which one would be the summoning and which one would be the reverse. I feel like this is reverse since the frog's there. But then again, these frogs are mechanical. They're not actual frogs. Anyways, let's move past the logistics of that. Doesn't really matter. Koji summons Boruto to his location. Koji explains that he is in one of Orochimaru's abandoned bases, which does make sense because we have seen that Boruto and Koji have talked in an Orochimaru base before, so we thought maybe they were also working with Orochimaru, but it seems that Koji just found one of Orochimaru's hideouts that were abandoned and just took it over for himself. So maybe Orochimaru doesn't know anything about Boruto or isn't working with him, so I guess that kind of takes out the whole theory that Orochimaru might end up having a bigger role in the manga, at least for now. It kind of seems like that's not trending towards that direction. And then Koji proceeds to tell Boruto that the Toad is a ninja tool. It's not an actual Toad. He just looks like an actual Toad. And that he manipulates him with chakra, so he wasn't actually talking to a Toad. He was just talking to Koji through the Toad. And Boruto at this point still hasn't figured out who he is, so he asks him, "Who are you? You seem to know who I am." Koji then proceeds to put on his broken mask from the Ishiki fight. And once he does that, Boruto is able to recognize him as Kashin Koji. And Koji explains that he was an artificial creation created by Amato. And then Boruto says, "Oh yes, I do know who you are, I forgot about it, but you're the one who killed Ao and tried to kill him and Konohamaru." And then Koji, before saying anything else, asks Boruto, "Can you verify one thing for me? Have you always been Boruto Uzumaki since you were born? Up till now, from the moment you were born up to now, have you always been Uzumaki Boruto?" And Boruto seems confused by the question at first, and Koji, with the straight face, just continues to say, "Yes or no, answer me straight." And Boruto actually doesn't give him a straight answer, which is kind of funny in hindsight. Boruto just says, "You know about omnipotence, right? Omnipotence." And then Koji proceeds to say that in his mind, Boruto was Ishiki's vessel who fled Kara, and that Amato and Koji helped them break out. But Koji proceeds to say, "But I'm wrong, correct?" And he says that he doesn't know a whole lot about what omnipotence is, but he does have an understanding of what its cause. And he knows that the day that Boruto was chased out from the village, that everyone's memories of him and Kawaki were flipped. And Boruto says, "Okay, I don't understand. You understand," or Boruto says that he doesn't understand how Koji knows that omnipotence affected his memory, but yet he's able to also not understand that that has happened and is not getting the two mixed up. Because as we've seen in previous chapters, Boruto has said that if you figure out how omnipotence works, it eventually corrects itself and you end up forgetting about it again. So Boruto is confused how Koji has been able to get around it. Plus, this also, we have to take into account, this might be the first time Boruto has met someone who has understand how omnipotence works, which further increases the reason why he would be so shocked or confused by it. But then Koji proceeds to reveal the biggest piece of information in this chapter. Koji knew that omnipotence had a high chance of happening before it happened. And Boruto is confused and it just answers back with, "What?" And before Koji explains, he does say he apologizes to Boruto for attacking him and fighting Konohamaru as well, but it was due to his orders that he did that. And Boruto responds with a really mature answer, in my opinion, saying that he's a shinobi too. He understands the weight of a mission or the weight of orders. And he also understands the frustration of not being able to vindicate oneself as someone who's experienced that for a long while now, which is him talking about his experience with the memory switch. So then Koji proceeds to explain what exactly happened that led him to see or understand that omnipotence was going to potentially happen. He says he was created to defeat Ishiki and to stop the planet destroying plan from the divine tree. And of course, we know what happened. Ishiki proved to be too powerful for Koji, but Koji did manage to drag him out of Jigen, causing him to resurrect early, which meant that Ishiki had a time limit on himself, which is what led to his demise in Naruto Next Generation. So, Koji says that he was ready to die because he knew he could leave the rest to the Hokage at the time, Naruto. But just before he died, Koji saw all of these moments, these future memories or moments happening right in front of his face. And we get this amazing panel here of like these film reels going by Koji, and we get to see certain moments like Baryon mode Naruto, Amato, Kawaki reawakening Ishiki's power, Boruto activating stage 2 of Karma. We see Ada in the Leaf Village, Sasuke. Let's see, what other moments do we see here? We see Code putting down a belt. We see another scene of Ada. We see that Koji just got all of these moments. Here, if you look here, we can even see right around the middle, he can see when the claw grinds were made. He can even see that Code had gotten his limiters removed here, as we see Code with like the white spiky hair right next to the claw grind. We see the 10 tails wrapped up in the belt, so Koji knew all these moments were going to happen. He got this vision, this preeminence of it on his deathbed. And it happened all at once, and he says that he saw all these scenes flashing by. And when he saw this, he knew that these were glimpses of future realities. And we see that he even got to see the moment where Ada and Kawaki caused omnipotence to happen here in the bottom panel. So that explains how Koji managed to see that, or it doesn't explain it, but we now know how Koji had intel about this stuff. We get to see even more future realities that could possibly happen, and this one is crazy. We have the memory or the future glimpse of the Shinju, Hidari, Jura, Matsuri, Mamushi, but there's also one we haven't seen yet in the back, and in the bottom panel we get to see a closer look of him. And I know there's some people saying that that's Naruto's Shinju clone, but no, that is not Naruto's Shinju clone. At least for me, in my opinion, that doesn't look like Naruto at all. But that is definitely Shinki from the Sand Village. You know, Gaara's son. He controls the metal sand. He was in the anime quite a bit. He was in the Chunin exam arc. That is definitely Shinki, in my opinion. I would be shocked if it's not him. He looks the most like him. He has the same markings with the belts that Shinki would have with the paint. That is definitely Shinki, in my opinion. So we get to see that in one reality, Shinki got turned into a Shinju clone, or was going to be with the first grouping of them. And this is when Koji realized that Ishiki dying wasn't enough, because until the Ten Tails itself was gone, the planet would continue to be in danger. So because of this, because of what he saw, Koji decided that he could not die here. And that is why Koji did the whole summoning jutsu to get him out of the Ishiki fight instead of just accepting his fate, which I think is really cool that they gave him a reason to actually get out of there, and not just it being he didn't want to die or something like that. Like he was fully prepared to die to fulfill his mission, which was to fight Ishiki or die trying. But now with what he saw, he realized, I can't die here, I need to get out. So since that has happened, and seeing what actually took place, Koji kind of deepened his understanding and his belief in the visions that he saw and that ability that he gained. So basically, Boruto says, so you're saying you knew that omnipotence would happen before it happened. And Koji says that's correct, but there are parts of this story that I'm confirming through the first time with this conversation that I'm having with you. Because Koji says, from his perception, Kawaki has always been Hokage's son. So Koji is still affected by omnipotence, but because he had knowledge of it beforehand, he's still able to fight back against it with relative ease. So then Boruto asks, what ability is this, and why did it come to you at your last moment? Then Koji proceeds to say, I'm sure Amato's told you about Otosuki I don't know if it's Shiba? I'm going to say Shiba. I don't think it's Shiba, but I'm going to go ahead and go with that. But basically, we've heard of Shiba before. He's basically like an Otosuki. He is like the Otosuki god. He's devoured countless planets. He has all kinds of Shinjutsu, which if you don't remember what Shinjutsu was, is basically an advanced form of ninjutsu, like the omnipotence ability. That is Shinjutsu. So then Boruto is surprised to hear about Shiba again. And then Amato reveals that each of the Kara members that were modified by Amato actually received transplants of Shiba's cells in the hope that they would manifest one of his abilities. Now, this didn't work for all of them, but it did work for some. So we know that Code can make claw marks and teleport between them. Damon can reflect all attacks, and Ada has her Center Renegon, which allows her to see anywhere, and the ability to cause omnipotence. So those were Shiba abilities. But Boro, Delta, nor Koji showed any Shinjutsu from Shiba at all. Until Koji was about to die. And that's when he showed his Shinjutsu, which was the future. The ability to see all possible futures. Which I believe in the translations before the official chapter came out, people were saying were called the 10 Directions. But in the official translation, they call it pre-science. So basically, Koji is able to see all possible futures. Now keep in mind, keep that wording in mind. All possible futures. So then Koji says, our future isn't simply one straight path. There's many different narratives or many different branches that it can take. And depending on what happens beforehand will determine which path is taken, right? So he gives an example that one of the memories not memories, I keep wanting to say memories, but one of the possible futures he saw was Naruto being killed by Ishiki in their fight, Baryon mode not being enough, causing Naruto to die, and Ishiki getting a chance to fully resurrect in Kawaki's body and getting a chance to plant the divine tree using Boruto as a sacrifice. Now, of course, we know that didn't happen, but there is a good chance it would have happened, is what Koji's saying. Then Koji says there was also that time when Kawaki sealed up the Hokage, and you and Kawaki got into that fight. There was a possibility that Kawaki would have killed you, and he also would have killed Sarada Uchiha, who tried to help you, as we see here in this panel. And this completely shocks Boruto, and this also gives a very different meaning to what Boruto said to Sarada in the first chapter, I believe. It was either in the first or second chapter where Sarada and Boruto were fighting Code in his claw grimes. And Sarada basically said, I'll help the rest of the shinobi around here with the claw grimes. And Boruto tells her to just stay alive. Is it possible that before Boruto got to the village, Koji told him, be careful, there is a chance that Sarada could die in this battle. I have foreseen it. So maybe that's why Boruto was concerned about it. Or, I mean, now we know why Boruto was there so quickly, because of the foresight. But there also could have been a chance that there's a toad there. There's many different ways now that Boruto could have known how it could have happened. But back to this possible future that Koji was talking about, where Boruto and Sarada died. In this future, if things had continued, Kawaki and Boruto would never switch positions. So then Kawaki would end up dying to Code and be devoured by the Ten Tails, the divine tree would be planted, thus destroying the planet. So Koji says, I know it's difficult to believe what I'm saying, especially because I'm talking about events that didn't occur, but he's basically just trying to tell Boruto that for the past couple years, the planet has basically been treading a tightrope of several dangerous situations that could have ended it multiple times by now. And Boruto basically says, you know, that's a really crazy story to believe, which, to be fair, it is. But Boruto says he can't really ignore the story or blow it off because he has seen an ability such as omnipotence firsthand happen, despite how crazy that was. So if that can happen, why can't prescience happen? The possibility or the ability to see potential futures. So Boruto basically says, I really don't want to believe that you saw these futures because it is rather grim to think, seeing all that could have very easily happened, but they basically got lucky that it didn't. But Boruto says that even though if I don't want to believe this, it would be dumb to basically blow it off. And Koji says, you know what, that's fine, I'll take it, thank you. So Boruto says, well, one question, aren't things going to happen just a certain way no matter what? So he's basically saying, like, aren't some things fated to happen no matter what? You know, like fate or destiny. So what's the point of seeing possible futures when no matter what, there is only one fate or one destiny? And Koji says, the biggest advantage of seeing all these futures is intel. And he gives him an example. You on the run. If you had all this future intel, you could have avoided these places where you got cornered, just like where I found you. And Boruto says, yeah, that's really helpful. And then Koji, this is crazy to me. The fact that they actually took the time to explain this, I really appreciate this, and it makes total sense with the ability that they set for Koji for this to happen. But Koji says, I could impart to the present you, Boruto, the Boruto right in front of him, the present Boruto, all the abilities and jutsus that you have mastered in the future to help you accelerate your learning and optimize your training. And Boruto gets super excited. This is really cool to see. You know, all we've seen so far in Boruto Two Blue Vortex is this very serious Boruto, you know, because he has the weight of the world. Literally, we now know that Boruto literally has the weight of the world on his shoulders because he knows what's lying ahead in the future if he fails, or if he doesn't do certain things, he knows just how bad it can really get. But here in this panel at the top left, we get to see a glimpse of the old Boruto, you know, the kid Boruto, the happy Boruto, you know, he's like, whoa, that's super awesome, that's possible, you know, like, he gets to revert a little bit. He's not just this extremely troubled, constantly on the edge survivor, basically, or criminal, the Shadow Hokage, if you want to call him that. We get to see him unwind a little bit, which I really appreciate, getting to see a little bit of the old Boruto personality come out. And Koji says there's no timeline paradox by doing this because he's only telling him what he saw. It's not like they're going to the future and like actually interacting with it. He's just causing something to happen earlier. Just because it happens earlier doesn't mean it's going to cause some kind of paradox. I kind of like that they also address that. Then Koji says the one thing that will definitely get Boruto on his side, and that is, I will also tell you how to rescue Sasuke Uchiha from the tree that he was captured in. And this catches Boruto's attention rather quickly. He instantly, I mean, he was already listening, but with this, he really, like, his eyes get wide and everything. He really was interested by that intel. And then Koji proceeds to tell him, but first, I need you to understand the worst possible thing that can happen in the future right now, from the possibilities that he has seen. And basically what Koji says is that 10 Tails will break free from Code's control and will evolve. The 10 Tails will evolve into multiple divine tree people who possess individual minds. And then he says that basically the best way to deal with this, or to stop it from happening, would be to dispose of the 10 Tails root and branch before that. But he says the chances of us doing this is low. Because in almost every future he can see, there are always the Divine Tree people, or as we know them, the Shinju. And most dangerous among them is their leader, Jura. And Koji reveals that Jura will end up killing Boruto. This line right here is huge as well. Okay, maybe not huge, but it does provide even more like context to some stuff that Boruto has said before. So, like Koji said, the likelihood of them succeeding, of stopping the Divine Tree people from showing up was low, due to the fact that they were constantly showing up in multiple futures. And as we saw at the beginning of Two Blue Vortex, Boruto did fail to take out the Ten Tails before the tree people would show up. And Koji did tell Boruto, you knew this would happen. You knew that this was a possibility. So that explains why Boruto had the whole intel about the Shinju before they even arrived, and why he was trying so hard to get Code to help him stop this. But like Koji said, the chances of succeeding were low, and as we saw, they did fail. But what we haven't seen yet is Jura killing Boruto. Now, Jura got close at the very beginning of the chapter, but I also want to go back to when Boruto and Kawaki first talked in Two Blue Vortex, when Kawaki said something about killing Boruto then and there, and that was when they were in the Hidden Leaf Village, and Boruto said, dying in the Hidden Leaf, that doesn't sound too bad. So, by that context, it sounds like Boruto knew what his death was, and now we know Koji has seen Boruto's death at the hands of Jura, so I wonder where Boruto died, but it seems like Boruto does agree that he thinks dying in the Hidden Leaf Village would be a lot better than dying to wherever Jura kills him. Which is kind of funny that Boruto said that, because at the very beginning of the chapter, Jura was ready to kill him while he was in the Hidden Leaf Village. So, a very interesting little thing I noticed. But now we move on. Koji says it's not an absolute thing that the Divine Tree people show up, but it happens in so many futures, the chances of it stopping are low. And what ends up following after that is pretty similar. Kawaki gets devoured for the Divine Tree, and the planet dies due to the Divine Tree being planted. So Koji says, obviously we can't let this happen, but as I told you, there's infinite possibilities, and the future is constantly changing one tick at a time. Boruto then says to Koji, just know, whether it's stopping the Divine Tree or the Shinju people, that he will never agree to anything that involves killing Kawaki, because Boruto is determined to knock sense into Kawaki and restore the Uzumaki household back to what it was. I'm curious to see if Boruto still has the same opinion now, because this is I'm not sure how long ago this was, but this is definitely before. I mean, from here to where we are now, does Boruto still harbor the same feelings that he's not accepting of killing Kawaki, or maybe by now he's a little bit more willing to? I mean, he hasn't tried to kill Kawaki yet, but he has been very cold to him, and he hasn't really been trying to mend the fences. But then again, he also hasn't had many chances to, so it'd be interesting to see if we get like an update on where Boruto stands on this here in the upcoming chapters. And then Boruto says, whatever the case, the Ten Tails is in my way. That's basically his first order. And then we get this nice little shot of long-haired Boruto putting on the Sasuke headband and declaring that he will finish off Code and the Ten Tails both. And this panel is dope. I love it. The long hair on Boruto as he tightens up the headband, it's cool to see. And it's just cool to see, you know, Boruto with this determination. It very closely reminds me of one of the final, I believe it was the final page of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, where he's tightening up his headband as him and Sasuke are leaving the village. And he's basically saying he'll fix all this because he's Uzumaki Boruto. This exact panel gives me the exact same vibes from that one. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. And with that, the flashback ends and we cut back to modern day, where Boruto's on the ground dying from the Jura shot. Sumeri is telling Boruto not to move. Konohamaru is checking on Sarada. And Sarada was also shot through the forearm, I want to say, through the forearm by Jura. And Konohamaru says, your bone is fine, but it looks like your nerves are damaged. And Sarada says, I don't care, please help Boruto, because Boruto obviously got the worst of it. And at this point, Himawari is starting to wake up. And once Himawari wakes up, he takes off towards Sarada and heals her using the Nine Tails Fox energy. And it looks like it heals her perfectly fine. And Konohamaru and Kawaki are completely taken aback by this. They didn't see her heal Inojin earlier, so they were unaware of this. And Himawari basically says, since the injury wasn't that bad, that should be enough healing for you. And Sumeri proceeds to call out Himawari and tell her to please help Boruto as well. And as Himawari is about to go over to heal Boruto, Kawaki tells her to stop and do not go near him. And Sarada gets upset about this as she proceeds to call out to Kawaki, Kawaki, you, but before she gets to finish that sentence, Kawaki says, don't misunderstand me. Himawari can heal him, we just have to do something first. And I'll say this, I'm not a big Kawaki fan, especially so far in the time skip, but at least here, I can't really give him too much grief about this because he's being sensible. He knows that Momoshiki likes to come out when Boruto is hurt. That's when Momoshiki is able to come out easiest. So it would make sense that right now when Boruto looks to be on his deathbed, I mean, that's what they're making it sound like, that they proceed to be extra careful here because you don't want Himawari to be right next to Boruto when Momoshiki comes out. So Kawaki calls out to Master Konohamaru. This kind of shocked me as well. I was surprised to see Kawaki be respectful to Konohamaru instead of just saying Konohamaru or something, or like idiot, something Kawaki would say. He actually refers to him by Master, which kind of shocked me. Konohamaru proceeds to walk over to Boruto and cuff him with custom sealing jutsu cuffs, so he can't use any type of ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu. I know a lot of people were throwing a fit about Konohamaru doing this, but despite seeing Boruto save Himawari and Sarada and stop Hidari, but just like Boruto and about said Amato, just like how Boruto and Koji were talking about earlier when it comes to Shinobi, when they get orders or when they have a directive, they have to listen to those first. So I'm not too upset about Konohamaru. Plus, Konohamaru even says, don't worry, I'll be gentle. It's not like he's throwing Boruto around to get all this stuff on him. He's trying to be careful with him, you know? He's not treating Boruto like the terrorist they think he is. But Konohamaru has some kind of understanding that Boruto is not as bad as what he thinks he is, or what he was led to believe. So Konohamaru is just doing what he has to do, you know? He's just doing what he has to do. Plus, if Momoshiki were to arrive, having those handcuffs on him would help at least a little bit, hopefully. And even Sarada does actually complain about Konohamaru cuffing him. But he tells Sarada, don't worry, or don't complain. It's a measure dictated by the law. Konohamaru is just following the directive, which is, as a shinobi, what you're expected to do. And it's something that Boruto, as seen earlier in the chapter, said he understands. So I don't think Boruto would be too upset by the fact he got handcuffed, even if he is on his deathbed. And Konohamaru says that they need the intel that Boruto possesses anyway, and to alert Lord 8th, who is Shikamaru. And then this was kind of funny to me, the fact that Kawaki actually takes the time to look into Boruto's cloak, and he actually pulls out Koji's frog, Filbert. I don't think Filbert's the official name, but it's what we, the Boruto fans, have been calling him, so I'm going to go ahead and call him that as well. He pulls out Filbert, and Kawaki actually recognizes him and says, isn't this Koji's frog? But before Kawaki can really do much, Koji summons the frog back to himself, and Konohamaru didn't exactly see what happened, so he looks over at Kawaki and says, what was that? And Kawaki says, don't worry about it, it was nothing. So Kawaki knows now that Koji is involved, or at least that Koji has some kind of relationship to Boruto, but he's not revealing that information, which I find kind of interesting. We'll have to wait and see if he continues to hide that in the upcoming chapters. And then we cut back to Koji, who obviously is annoyed at what happened, the fact that he's now technically been discovered. And then we cut to the Shinju, who are back in their Ten Tails dimension. We see them placing the Thorn Soul on this cube, and as they place it on the cube, we see a bunch of tree branches come towards the bulb, and kind of just like start not absorbing it, but like empowering it, causing it to get bigger. And then we see a big smoke explosion, and boom, Hidari is back. And then Jura basically asks him like, "Hey Hidari, having any issues?" Hidari says, "I can't really tell." And Jura says, "Well, it seems like you're still Hidari, so your identity appears to be strong and intact. So it seems like there's a chance that when they resurrect through the Thorn Soul bulbs, that their identity that they had could possibly be lost." But anyways, Matsuri asks Jura if it's about time for that. They don't exactly explain what it is. But then we see that Matsuri actually has a Thorn Soul on her as well. She brought another one. And then Jura tells her, "Alright, fine, harvest it." So she proceeds to place it on the cube. And then we cut to the Shinju. We see all four of them standing there with Jura saying now what to name you. But we don't get to see who it is. And that is the final page of the chapter. So, obviously, huge chapter. A lot of information here. And there's a lot of stuff in here I want to talk about, but the video is already at 37 minutes. So I'm going to try to quick wrap this up. But I will be making separate videos for different topics. Here. Especially with the timeline, not the timeline. Well, yeah, timeline. But the ability Koji has, because I know many people have been saying, "Oh, Boruto now has a multiverse." Boruto from episode 1 of the anime is from a different universe than the Boruto we see in Boruto Two Blue Vortex. And I've been seeing a lot of that, and me personally, I don't think that's true. I think the way the timeline works in the Naruto Boruto franchise now, it's not multiverses. It could be multiverses. I'm not saying that what I'm about to say is pure fact. It's just the way I interpret it. And it's basically the timeline is one line, and it's constantly going between all these possibilities. So if you go back to this panel here, where Koji's kind of explaining it, you see these lines connecting the film reels. Like, this is our timeline, and it could be going from here to here. It could be going from here to here, but only one of these lines is the timeline. The other lines aren't like other multiverses. The other lines are just showing this is where it could have gone. So I'll make a video trying to explain a little bit better, but that's basically what I'm trying to say, is that there's still only one timeline. There's no multiverse. There's one timeline, but Koji just has the ability to see where this timeline can go. Like, each possibility this timeline can go, he can see it. But he's not looking into other multiverses or stuff like that. It's still one universe. It's still one timeline. There's no multiple timeline thing going on here. That's the way I see it. But like I said, I'll make a different video discussing that later in the future. And I think I also want to make a video talking about some of the implications now of some stuff that Boruto has said in the past, where he's kind of referring to the future, where he seemed to know some stuff before it happened, just to see how different some of his words can be taken, like how he said dying in the Leaf Village wouldn't be that bad compared to him dying to Jura. So I might want to go back and see like what lines have been said by Boruto that might have a different meaning now that we know how Koji's ability works. But overall, super good chapter, a lot of very good information. There's a lot of very good information thrown in here. And what is it? How many pages was this? 41 pages. A lot of really good information. A lot of good progress made in 41 pages. In terms of what I think might happen next chapter, I think we're just going to get like an interrogation chapter. We're going to have Boruto in a cell probably. We're going to have Shikamaru talking to him. Kawaki Konohamaru will probably be there. I think we might have Kawaki confront Shikamaru, because Kawaki, if I remember right, was already kind of a little suspicious of Shikamaru, so he might be assuming that they might be working together. And depending on how Shikamaru treats Boruto in imprisonment, might be able to tip Kawaki more towards the possibility that these two have been working together for a little bit. So we might see Kawaki confronting Shikamaru for that. But I think that'll be the main part of the next chapter, and then we'll probably also see who the new Senju is. It'd be surprising if we don't. And I think that'll basically be about it. We'll get to see the new Senju. We'll have a scene of them all talking together, and then we'll cut back to the Hidden Leaf Village and see what happens after Boruto was taken prisoner. But I don't think we'll get much more than that. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But it does seem like we're going towards a more slower pace part of the story now, because so far we just had fight after fight after fight. We did have a little bit of slowdown between the fights, so I think we're going to go back into another like little slowdown period before we get into a new conflict. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. In terms of my wild card prediction for next chapter, I think the easy one to predict would be the Senju. So obviously we've seen that Shinki can become a Senju in one of the future possibilities from Koji. We've already seen the design, but I don't think it'll be him. I think showing him in this chapter as a Senju is a bait and switch to make you think at the end that he's the one who's going to be popping up. I think, will he become a Senju in the future? Probably, because they've made the design already, but I don't think it's going to be now. I think it's going to be later in the future. So in terms of who might be the Senju now, it would have to be a prominent character for there to be like a big, like hoopla about it. And you have to wonder, while Hidari and Jura were in the Hidden Leaf Village, where were Matsuri and Mamushi, or Bug's clone? Where were they? Could they have possibly been in the Hidden Sand Village or near the Hidden Sand Village, and that's how Shinki got taken? Or got treed? I'm gonna call it that, treed. Possible, because if you remember correctly, in the earlier chapters of Two Blue Vortex, it was confirmed that Code has belts set up around all of the villages. Not just the Hidden Leaf Village, he has them set up all around the villages. And the Senju clones are able to use Code's belt to teleport as well. So they very easily could be in the other villages as well, or attacking the other villages as well. So that leaves a lot of possibility. It could have been someone from the Hidden Cloud Village, the Hidden Water Village, Hidden Mist, the Hidden Sound. A lot of possibilities. If it's not Shinki, I think, and I don't want it to be true. I know some people are already predicting this, but Kakashi, Sakura are very big candidates. I don't think it'll be Sakura, because the most likely place for her would have been in the Leaf Village, and that's where Jura and Hidari were. So I don't think the Leaf Village, I don't think it's going to be someone from the Leaf Village. Now Kakashi, as we've seen in the anime, he isn't in the Leaf Village. He's at like the spas. He's at like some other location with spas with Guy all the time, I think. So maybe there's a chance it's Kakashi, maybe it's Might Guy. But I don't think it's either one of them either. I think it's going to be someone from a different village. And I think there's a slight possibility it might even be one of the Kages. But who knows? I guess it's time to make the prediction. If it's not Shinki, who else could it be? Who else would be a very prominent figure for it to be? Because we have Sasuke, we have one of Konohamaru's teammates, I don't remember her name anymore, and then we have Bug. Who could it be? Okay, yeah, wow, this is really hard to decide if it's not Shinki. Who else? I guess it could be like a Kabuto, maybe Tamari. No, Tamari would be in the Hidden Leaf Village. I'm gonna be honest, I'm really stumped on this. You know what? I'm gonna say it's Orochimaru. I know what you're thinking, that is a very stupid prediction, but it's a wild card guess. It's supposed to be an extremely like crazy prediction. It as I said in the previous videos, the wild card guess is supposed to be something with a very low possibility of happening. And considering the fact that Orochimaru's hideouts have been brought up and that they're using them, you would think It seems weird to me that Orochimaru would abandon a hideout, you know? Or he wouldn't at least keep track what hideouts he has, even if he's not currently using them. So maybe, and knowing Orochimaru, I can see him wanting to, you know, like, see what the Senju clones were. So maybe it's him. I'm going to go ahead and say Orochimaru is my guess. So we'll have to wait and see the next chapter if I was right. But other than that, let me know down below what you guys thought about the chapter. How did you guys like it? What are your thoughts or predictions on what's going to happen in chapter 14? And with all that being said, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe for more Boruto content in the future. God bless, happy reading, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.